We are going to open the board meeting at 7 o'clock. Welcome to the public, and of course, welcome board members. Glad to see everyone here tonight. Having called the meeting to order, I'm going to turn to Kelly for a prayer for guidance tonight.
Okay, if you all bow your heads, please. Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. We thank you for the sunshine and our ability to gather here. We thank you for the ability to serve our community and the residents here, and that you've bestowed on us the talent to be able to sit in these seats. And we ask that you be with us tonight and help us to make use of those talents to the best of our ability and to your will. And we ask that you guide these decisions to be in the best interest of our community always. Please be with our first responders, our sheriff's department, our fire department, those who work as EMTs throughout our community, and especially our employees who serve our residents day to day. We ask that you be with us tonight and the people here and bring everyone home safely. We pray all this in your son's name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. You can stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. How do you prefer when everyone's here? Want to call or acknowledge?
You just acknowledge that everyone's here tonight.
Great. Wonderful. Thank you all. On an evening like this, you could have played hooky, so thank you. All right. Item number 5, approval of tonight's agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Support.
Okay. Moved and supported. Discussion. Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion's carried. The agenda is approved. Item 6 are communication letters and reports which have been received for information. Item 7 is a public comment period. So for those who come this evening who maybe aren't familiar with our process, this is an opportunity to speak to items on the agenda for tonight's meeting. If you say, well, I didn't know what your agenda was, we publish it at least by the Thursday in advance, sometimes sooner. And so hopefully you can go to our website and locate that for any future meetings. But we've got it projected tonight. And if you come to speak to an item, I suppose you've already seen the agenda. If you didn't come to speak to an item, then we're going to give you another chance at the tail end of the meeting to speak to any issue you like. Okay? So having heard that, does anyone wish to address the board this evening on agenda items? All right. Seeing none, we'll close the initial public comment. Back to the later one in a bit. Number 8, consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda?
So moved.
Support.
All right, mostly for the public again, mostly minutes and bills and things of that nature, which you can also look up to see where the money is going. Any comments among the board? No comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that's the easy part. Now, number 9. Board action on the candidacy of Interim Superintendent Justin Stott for the open position of Superintendent. And here again, for the benefit of the public, before anyone on the board might make a motion, we had recently a resignation of our manager, Rob Blitchock, who served us well during his 3 years here. And we appointed Justin Stott here to my left with a sharp tie on tonight as our interim superintendent. But of course, we immediately began to work on filling that open position. Initially, we had publication within the township offices for any internal candidates. We had one, and that was Justin, who's he was previously our assistant manager. And this past Monday at a special meeting of the board, an open meeting, we interviewed him at length. And so at that time, we indicated we were not going to make a decision on his candidacy. People were given additional time to consider his responses, contact his references, things of that nature. And tonight is an appropriate time to make a decision, again, in an open forum, as to whether or not the board wishes to see Justin offered a contract, in which case there would be a contract negotiation to follow, or whether to look outside for a different candidate. So with that background, I look to the board for a motion.
I make a motion that we hire Justin for the super position.
Mm-hmm.
Support.
Okay, moved and supported. The floor is open.
Can I amend the motion? Sure. The amendment would be that, should we hire them, that compensation would be decided and brought from the finance committee at the same time?
And probably contract length.
Pardon?
Contract length.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that can be as a second motion after we're done with this one, or an amendment to this one. I will digress.
I don't mind splitting it into two if you guys are all right with that. So
We'll stick with
initially,
one.
it's, do we want to, as a board, hire him? And then secondarily, we deal with the idea of contract negotiations. Is that all right?
Yep.
Okay, so there was a motion to support.
Yes.
Comments? Any board members?
Justin has actually worked for the town, correct me if I'm wrong, but for a long time. I think, didn't you start when you were 20 years old? So Justin, his knowledge of the township, I had a meeting with him last week, and just his knowledge about everything. If I'd asked something right away, Justin was very good about policies, everything that's going on. I think we would be foolish not to hire Justin.
Okay, thank you. Others?
Justin also interviewed very well, incredibly knowledgeable. And I think what stands out is his history with the community and his family's history, that they've been here for generations. And so there's just this is a piece of his heart here in our community. He knows it well, very much involved in firefighting, and did that with Granville and with Georgetown Township. His mind works very, very quickly, and he had a strong relationship with Rob Blitchak. I was incredibly impressed, and I agree with Amy. I'd hate to see him, I'd hate to lose him, because I think he's a young man that's going to be going up, and I think he can handle this incredibly well. And our staff raves about him, and they very strongly would like to see him considered for this position.
You know, we talked at length at the end of that meeting last Monday after the interview, again in open session, and I heard a lot of your comments. I can't recall, though, if I heard this in that meeting or not, but if so, I'd still want it repeated. Kevin, you said something that hit me, in that you called every one of his references.
I did, actually.
You had some comments coming out of that. Could you just summarize what you heard?
Yeah, so I did call. By the time we had our special meeting, I had got spoken to Greg Golombieski, and then also Rob Blitchak. The day after the meeting, I spoke to Mike May. I had to call into my brother-in-law, Greg Sundstrom, who's the former city manager at Grand Rapids. And Justin had worked there at the same time that Greg had worked there. Greg is a superintendent in a neighboring township, and said, don't lose him, because, you know, he had some surgery, he had some illness earlier last year, and said, I told my staff that if something would happen to me, grab Justin. He's the guy that filled my shoes. He's an all-star. He's a hard worker. He shouldn't be listening to all this.
Yeah.
And the other part, you know, my brother-in-law, Greg Sundstrom, he had to rehash his memories a little bit, because he's been retired for about 7 years right now, but he made similar comments, and he had made some phone calls and said, you know, Justin was a hard worker. He moved up in the city of Grand Rapids, and again, a person that we knew we weren't going to be able to hang on to. Spoke to Mike May then, first part of last week, Tuesday after our meeting, and he says, you know, I really can't speak to the position that he's going for here in the Georgetown, but as a firefighter there, somebody who was dedicated to the city of Granville and dedicated to his job, and a sponge, wanted to learn, wanted the experiences to take on new challenges and accept new responsibilities. He's a great guy for that. I did speak to all 4 references. Every one of them gave him a very, very high reference, and 3 of the 4 said, don't look past him. He's an individual that won't ever turn his back on you. So,
I think the only negative I took away from the meeting, Justin, was the fact that there's a fear that you don't know how to delegate. Now you're going to work too hard. And I texted Jim Waringa afterwards that I was taught by a friend of mine, Jacob Mole, that it's harder to hold a tiger back by the tail than it is to push a turtle. So you got to remember that when we hire people, that they work hard, but that's the only negative I heard. You got to learn to delegate. And I think we're going to hold you to that a little bit. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's very clear, and I think it's worth just repeating because everybody here heard these words, but the people in the audience, and just for the sake of broadcast tonight, right, just every single person had a story or had an anecdote to say, just a time in which Justin literally rolled up his sleeves and got to work for the community. And I think that's, it's just really telling of his character. Even he gave a story of there was some wire that needed to be pulled, and he just got up on a ladder and started pulling the wire. And it's just like, that's the kind of person he is. And I think it's so important that our residents know that. And, you know, I don't have a problem saying it was me who said, I want Justin to be able to delegate, right? And I likened it to just, the work ethic is so important, but once you rise to a certain level, you have to be the person who is able to delegate so that you can get more done for our residents. And I don't think that you're not up for the task. I am excited to watch you grow into that role, to kind of fulfill those shoes, to be the person who delegates and inspires and motivates the rest of your team to be the same type of worker that you always have been for this township.
Wonderful.
Yeah, my comments, I guess, would be, I know Justin probably more through the fire department than I do everything else, and just like everybody says, he was willing to go after every task, every training that there was out there, no hesitation whatsoever. In the years he was in Georgetown, he left to go to Graham for a while, but we managed to get him back into Georgetown until he ended up getting this job where he is at right now. But wouldn't be afraid to get him the first line in and be able to back up anybody else. Always did what he was. And so just by knowing him that way, I strongly support.
Great. I had lunch with Justin today, and I'll tell you something I said to him. The silver lining maybe in some respects to Rob's departure, which we were enjoying Rob's leadership as well, right? Was that had he stayed and someone came to snatch Justin, such as the example Kevin gave, what are you going to do? Turn to Rob at that point and go, you're fired. Okay, don't leave. You know what I mean? You'd be stuck and you'd lose them. So silver line, one way to look at it, right? So, well, wonderful. There's a motion then to recommend the hiring of Justin as superintendent. So all have had their say. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, and that is passed. Congratulations, Justin. So I think this was everything. So, Gary, to your second.
I'd like to make it would be 9A, I guess, and we should have put this probably in the agenda before, but that we would have his compensation be brought to the finance committee. I don't know how you want to word that, Kelly.
I think compensation and other contract details to be discussed and determined through the finance.
Yeah. Brought back here.
Very good. Very good.
That's it.
Second?
Second.
Support.
Okay, it's been supported. Comments?
I think all this praising is going to make it a little tougher to negotiate, but
Yeah. All right, good. So anyone else on this motion? Good, then all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, finance is meeting a week from today and we'll make progress. Okay, item number 10, property transfer. Is there a motion to approve of this resolution of these potential conveyances?
So move.
Support.
Okay, moved and supported. Those who are not part of finance, I trust you read through and perhaps through your homework or talking to others have realized why this is being done and sort of the unusable nature of this piece of property that frankly we haven't been caring for and have been for years. It's unbuildable, it's unusable to us. And it kind of came about, and Justin could say better, but the road there was changed over time to be a curve or to take a curve right there, and it created this little small triangular piece that's not very useful, but floor's open. Questions, comments?
Jim, I think this is a win-win. It helps us as far as not having to maintain it. But then the owners were made aware that they will pay a tax on this new property. And it's not real high, but we have something that has been generating nothing. And now we will have it maintained, and we'll be receiving some tax dollars for it. And it'll probably increase their property value.
Yes.
And it's an unusual situation. They're right by the road. I think it was a smart thing to do.
Mhm.
Rod Deemter was all for it.
Any other comments? No? Hearing none, this is a roll call vote, so I'll turn to our clerk.
Trustee Kelly?
Yes.
Treasurer DeWitt?
Yes.
Trustee Veldink? Trustee Schwalm?
Yes?
Supervisor Wieringa?
Yes.
Clerk is a yes. Trustee Grassman?
Yes.
All in favor.
All right, thank you. Item number 11, the poverty exemption resolution. Is there a motion to approve of this guideline resolution as recommended by Finance?
So moved?
Support.
Been moved and supported. Anyone from Finance wish to address this before the board? It's something that comes up every several years, probably 5 years, I believe it is, every 5 years. We do it. Oh, we do, okay, yeah. Anybody need to hear further from Connor on this? He did come and stay for this very reason.
I think he was very articulate with our group, and in the fact that he's here, I think having him speak would be a positive.
All right. Connor, do you mind? Yeah, let's do it. All right, let's do it.
All right, Connor, I'm the assessor, more or less here. I've met most of you, but for those I haven't, Connor. Yeah, so we have to, as a township, the state of Michigan says we have to have a poverty exemption, which would exempt a resident from their property taxes for a year. We have had an exemption as far back as I could find. Every 5 years, the state does an audit of the tax roll in kind of my department. And in reviewing the poverty exemption that's been in place, I just found a few little updates we had to make. The Finance Committee recommended a little adjustment to one of the tests. There's 2 tests that we have to have. There's the income guidelines, which we just use the federal poverty guidelines. And then there's the asset test, which is how much property other than the house, like a car, anything in their house, how much the value of that can be. So the Finance Committee recommended increasing that a little bit. But it's basically the same exemption as it was before, just a little bit higher on the asset side.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And Connor-
Any questions for Connor?
Yeah.
But you'd mentioned that no one is qualified in the past.
Yeah, so
And we're required to do this by the state to offer it.
we're required to offer it. As far back as I could find, and in talking to Jill, no one's ever actually received it in Georgetown. This year, as Sean could say, but we had 2 people apply for it this year, and neither of them qualified based on the federal guidelines or our guidelines, which are the federal guidelines. One was double the amount that we set as the standard, and one was like 18% over it. So, yeah, it's really hard to qualify for. Whether that's good or bad, but yeah, we have to have it in place, and we kept it relatively similar to what it was in the past.
For purposes of the board here, we recommended doubling the test, the asset test, because it's so woefully low. And if somebody's going to qualify at that level, they deserve to qualify. I mean, I would feel terribly for them if they were at that point. This is not you wouldn't have the ability to more or less sort of scam the system or whatever people's concern might be. You are genuinely impoverished if you qualify. So at least on that aspect of the test, we wanted to make it more possible than it had been. But even so, we just don't know when someone might qualify. So
The two that we had this year still wouldn't qualify under these guidelines. because they were over the income side of it. They would actually qualify based on the asset side, but you have to meet both tests in order to get the exemption.
Yeah.
And those exemptions go through the Board of Review.
Yep. Okay. So we affected our side of things, but the federal guidelines remain the federal guidelines.
Yep.
So, thank
Connor,
you,
you
Connor.
had mentioned something to the group about your new job. You're excited about it?
Well, yes, I am.
Would you like to share that just a moment?
Yeah. First off, congrats. But yes, I'm loving this new role. So I was in Allendale for about 7 years before this, a little over. And I'm loving working for Georgetown. I know I work for Ottawa County, but this is the only municipality that I serve. So this is my full-time job. I love the group back there. Bunch of great people. I'm loving the community so far. Yeah, no complaints.
Great.
So,
He
thanks.
keeps using the word love. Even with us, he was doing that. So we don't have
That
to
was
give him a
in
raise
finance
for a
committee.
long time.
Yeah. No, thank you guys.
Great. Glad to hear.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, board members, any discussion or debate on this poverty exemption? Okay. Hearing none, this also is a roll call vote.
Trustee Schwalm?
Yes?
Trustee Grassman?
Yes.
Clerk is yes. Trustee Kelly?
Yes.
Supervisor Waringa?
Yes.
Treasurer DeWitt?
Yes.
Trustee Belding?
Yes.
All in favor.
All right, thank you. Item 12 tonight, master plan contract. We touched on this a little bit at the end of last meeting. But nevertheless, after that last meeting, we had interviews of various potential planners to assist us through the master plan process, and this is what has been brought before the board via the agenda. So is there a motion to contract with William & Works for a sum not to exceed $35,000?
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. Just by way of a little bit more background, I was part of the group that interviewed these three candidates or companies, right? Service providers. There was Rob, there was Justin, there was Josiah, head of our planning commission.
Manette.
Huh?
Was Manette?
Manette was there, Ryan was there, zoning administrator, and then myself. And we interviewed over the course of a couple of days. We probably had good hour-long interviews with each one, and then we had time to process among ourselves. And I would say that coming into the process, there were disparate views, even coming through the interviews, even maybe to some degree after the interviews, although not to as great a degree. And we began to talk through this as a group, and this Williams & Works became a consensus, which I was grateful for. I didn't want to see division, disparate vote. So I think if you ask anybody who I just named who was part of that, are you enthusiastic about Williams & Works, and in particular, this person, Tanya, and don't ask me to pronounce her last name, you probably know, I don't know, but she was impressive. She was extremely impressive. Frankly, I thought all three did a good job. All three are very capable companies and capable individuals who were interviewed, but Tanya really stood out. And Williams & Works has a pretty strong pedigree and history and experience with local municipalities. The thing I like with Tanya in part two is she's a Granville native, and then one of the close work companions or workers in her office that would help her on this is a Jenison resident. They seem to have greater knowledge too of this community than did the other two, even though the other two were capable. She also just had a way about her that I would say she would do well to both listen and direct, right, as needed. And so I found a good balance in her, as did the others. So that's my 2 cents as far as the background of how we got here to where we are. Comments and questions?
I mean, obviously, it was pretty clear that I felt very strongly about this process. And I think it almost provides an interesting anecdote, aside from what you just said, that on my own, because I know this process well, I know how master plan updates work. I've worked on master plan updates professionally myself. So when I went through these three proposals and just simply reflected on my professional experience, hands down, Williamson Works would have been my recommendation.
Means a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, and one of the teammates on Williamson Works was my close colleague for almost 7 years. So I very much trust the team that they put forward. I've seen the work that they do. It's impressive. I think just flipping quickly through the proposals before you even got into the meat of them, just the care in which they put the proposal together, the graphic design, just the level of detail, I think just shows through the end product that we will get. I was really impressed, and so I wholeheartedly support Williamson Works.
Great. Great. Glad to hear it. And more to come on that, both about the special meeting on the 17th, as well as, the process with this planner and our part in that, so, as a board. So, but tonight is just a decision about who, all right? Others? All right.
I've talked to a few other planners that use Williamson Works. They've been pretty pleased. So I don't work with these types of people that often. So but I did talk to a friend of mine's chair of planning commission at Georgetown Township. That's who they selected last year. So.
Okay. Good. Justin, anything to add? You don't have to, but I know you were part of it, so.
I think I was pleasantly surprised of how we all came together at the end, and I felt like there was a clear, distinguished forerunner that we chose, and it was Williamson Works. So,
Good deal. Okay. If there's no further comments, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And it is approved. Item 13, GT1 pump replacement. Is there a motion to approve of this purchase? Came out of utilities.
I'll make the motion. To approve.
Sounds like, all right.
Whoever.
All right, whoever you picked up, Amber. All right. I know we have Joel tonight. I don't know if we need his input on this, but I'm sure that he'd give it if we needed it. Anybody questions, concerns?
It's a pump that provides 60%, so, I mean, we really have to,
This past year, one of our pumps went out, and we had to rebuild it. And we're fortunate that we have people in the township that can, because they actually know how to get the thing apart. They knew who to contact. Mike Mark's really good at this. And Gene with me, we went and looked at that pump, didn't we, Gene?
Yeah.
And I have to realize, but during the winter months, we get enough pressure from Wyoming in order to run the township on the pressure that Wyoming sends us. In the summer months, these two pumps run, they scream. Joe says you can't even be in that building when they're both running.
Wow.
My concern when I went down and looked, I said, okay, let's say the thing goes out in the summertime, now what? Well, it takes 8 weeks to get a pump. We need to find out what it's going to cost, how long to get a pump, so we have backup. Because if the pump goes down, we're gonna have serious issues. The biggest one's going to be dead grass. We can't have that, So that'd be terrible. So, anyways, this pump will be something that'll be a spare in case something happens.
All right, anyone else?
Joel said it's working well now, but you can, during the summer, hear it from the road because and not that there's something wrong with it, but it's like Gary said, it is just humming because of the demand of people watering their grass. But if that went down and we had to wait 8 weeks, what a disaster we would have. 60% of our water. So it kind of surprised me when it was brought up at the meeting, but it was so important, and Joel and Gary were so emphatic, it was like, we got to bring it to the board right away. We can't take a chance on something like this.
Sounds prudent. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, it sounds pretty clear, the need to have this on our shelf in the case of an emergency, given the timing to get it out. I'm just curious, did we have enough dollars in the budget to absorb this into this fiscal year's costs, or did we have to make any budget amendments to get this?
We're good.
Great.
Good.
Part of just a contingency that we build into the operating budget for the year.
I guess I weigh the need versus if we were pushed in a corner, there's huge ramifications.
Yeah.
Right? From your house catching on fire, trying to push water through the township. Like,
Yeah.
this is a necessary item that we will prioritize and will buy.
Totally.
Yep.
Yeah, I get it. I think through my own little, household budget, and even if there's something I need, if the money's not there and I've got to rework some things, I just was curious if we had to rework some things or if it sort of was built in to a contingency piece of that utility fund for the year.
Yeah. We will, I guess, kind of dig deep into it in 2 weeks when we talk about the audit and see where we're at and water rates and how this all come together here this summer. So.
And then as we look forward, this is a little bit off topic, but as we look forward to working through the rest of this year's budget and future budgets, knowing that other items like this might come up, replacement parts, even not on an as-needed basis, but if we have the ability to build into our budget funds to sort of start preparing for these needs, I guess I'm just saying it for the record that it feels like this is something that we really need to be thinking about moving forward, just aging infrastructure and knowing the expense and the timeline to get these sort of parts, that this feels important, but it also feels like something we probably will have to pay attention to and do more of in the future.
I would say life before COVID versus after COVID, what it does for supply chains, trying to get pipes, and I guess Joel can speak to this. It's changed a lot of things, and how we buy and procure items has changed drastically. So
we'll have beautiful shelving space to hold it in the future.
there we go.
Yeah.
And just for a little more information, in the future, because these pumps are working so hard, we may have to look at another pumping house next to that one. And again, that's not going to be cheap. So these are all things that are coming down the line for our infrastructure. It's 50 years old. And I sat in Joel's office with him this afternoon for an hour or so. And we don't always talk about infrastructure, but we do touch on a lot of things, trying to figure out future, what it's going to cost, where you got to go. I'm very familiar with infrastructure, so we do have this kind of, and I give Joel a lot of credit because he does have 5 and 10-year plans. He is looking out for the township down the line. This isn't, these things happen, but I think there's money for it, and we seem to be being able to cover ourselves the last 4 years I've been on the board, and I've been very happy about that. So, yeah, they have been working on that.
That's good to hear.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Hearing no further comment, all in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is carried. Item 14, Internet Service Providers. Is there a motion to approve of this low quote or the lowest quote here by Metronet?
So moved.
Support.
Okay, moved twice and supported once. I'd like to hear from utilities. I know this is, Metronet's the one that we've dealt with some grief about here for a couple of years. Was there worry about their performance once they have it all installed? Was the concern more with the subcontractors and not necessarily with the performance of
I
their...
think we really turn this over to Justin because he's really been working on this as far as the internet, and he's more up to date on why we're doing it the way we are.
I think a year ago, if you had asked me, the township's going to contract with Metronet, I said absolutely not. But full circle, we're actually at the conclusion of the build-out of Metronet in Georgetown Township. So a lot of people call and ask, they're like, hey, I don't have fiber down my road, but my neighbor does, or my friend across town does. Well, they're only doing so much. We don't pay them. They come here and put their own infrastructure in. While this was happening, we've also had different companies build out and put fiber throughout the township in different parts. And even the county has contracted to put fiber in areas not served by these contractors. So we've had kind of like a flurry of contractors and opportunities to get internet, high-speed or fiber internet compared to our high-speed internet. When we started looking at the bids and looking at the costs, we can save about $1,000 a month by switching to fiber, doing, I think it was a 3 or 5 year commitment, and we will have a lot better service. The service allows us, as more and more applications that we use in the township are cloud-based, and now DPW is going to be transferred to the fire, or to near the fire station, and for us to collaboratively work to meet the needs of our township and be more efficient too. So I think this is a win. on multiple different fronts, and I wish I could save money and other line items in what we're doing tonight, but this is a win for us.
I look at the disparity in quotes, and for those maybe again on the committee or others, is there a difference in what sort of speed or coverage or whatever is provided? How could there be such a disparity as we see here in the various quotes? Are we getting less for our money and that's why we're paying less? Or would you say, no, their quality is comparable, if anyone knows, to the...
No, the quality is the same, it's just profit margins. And I had that same concern too. It's like, if I go with the low guy, am I getting what I'm buying for? And they said no. They want to serve, they came in here, they want to make a name for themselves, and they want to be successful. So I'm all for it. So
Yeah, they're aggressively trying to gobble up part of the market. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll be a beneficiary of that. Any other thoughts, members?
We run our phones through the internet too, or not?
we do.
Good. Yeah.
We have a server. We actually, with this proposal, we would have Metronet as our primary, Comcast as our backup, Comcast is coax, and then Metronet's fiber. So if someone digs a bad hole somewhere and knocks out our fiber, it defaults back to the coax, which is a different type of, and different company. So if we have a bad ice storm like up north, then, we have redundancy in it.
Good. All right. No further comment. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion is carried. Item 15, crosswalk and traffic light at Baldwin and Brewer, which has been worked on for a period of months, maybe even a couple of years now. Someone make a motion, and I'd like to hear from Justin a summary.
I move.
Support.
Like I said before, or Jim talked about, the board has seen this before. We bid it out. We only had one bidder of the multiple bidders out there. It is a smaller project, and due to uncertainty in supplies procurement, like we do with the EPW, the price went up from when we originally quoted this over a year ago. But by approving this, Hudsonville Public Schools is going to partner with us, which we're excited about. This will provide safe passageway for our residents to get across the 5-lane highway, and also give a break for people leaving school to make a left-hand turn going eastbound. I feel this is a win for the schools, win for us, will mutually benefit, and also it helps our insurance company is excited about this too, because that we don't have our crossing guards blindly at busy intersections. 36 in Baldwin is the most dangerous intersection in Georgetown Township, and getting kids out of that intersection and pushing them down and have more of a buffer as they come up the hill from Jennison or up from a hill from 20th, I believe will be safer for our residents. And then this fall, we'll actually add another 2 crossing guards to cross the residents from the south side of Baldwin to the school. So
I was surprised that the school is busing 850 kids across the street because of safety concerns. So this, I think, would be a win-win.
Yeah, it's a win-win. We must keep our residents safe.
Will we still have a crossing guard at 36 in Baldwin for,
yep, so we're going to
just on,
stop, next fall, we're going to stop crossing students north and south. We'll just cross them east and west.
Right.
So we'll just have one there, and we'll just monitor how many kids actually cross there too.
Right.
We're not going to pay someone to stand out there for nothing. But
It was also difficult for you to get this approved, that you had to go to a number of meetings.
yes.
And I think the school actually paid to have a survey done because they set rules and they said, if you cross that street, the penalty is going to be incredibly severe.
Yes.
And then they did a survey and they said, well, there's not enough kids that are just kind of scooting across the street. We can't justify this. Well, yes, because we said we're going to really penalize them if they do. And so the school paid for another survey so that they could legitimately go to the road commission and get this approved. But if they hadn't kept after that, the answer was no.
Correct. So,
I would
This is a red light along with a flashing pedestrian, if I read
yeah, there'll be a traffic light.
the parts and stuff that are there.
Yep, and we had to change some ADA requirements because right now, if you zoom in, Amber, can you zoom into that? See how the sidewalk kind of flares to the north along Baldwin? Yeah, right there. That can't be if we put a light there because you can't cross people in the middle of traffic. So the sidewalk actually has to be moved forward so that the people cross in front of the cars because there'll be a light there. So there's some modifications that we necessarily didn't want, but we are required to do if we put this traffic light in. And
yeah, go ahead.
long term, this might be an opportunity that now we have like a safe passageway across a busy road. Maybe we can eventually extend a trail up to potentially Bauer, because the school district does own all the way to Bauer.
Thanks for that summary. I just wanted to say, board members, expect to receive feedback from the community about this and expect some criticism. I think anytime people are thinking about their own child's safety, there will be a variety of opinions about what you should have done or what you could have done. I'm grateful that something is finally being done in collaboration with the school. I believe it is the best option, but it requires kind of digging in to hear pros and cons of other things that were considered. And I think if people ask or inquire, all possibilities were considered. And I think it's also, as was pointed out, worth mentioning that we were stymied. We don't control this automatically, and we've got to work with the road commission, and it was not going to happen, but for some of the persistence, I think that was shown on both sides of this, both the school and in the township. So grateful for that. Just be prepared, though, to hear people's concerns and express your position and opinion as to why this is a good thing. So, yeah.
There are a lot of ways to slow traffic, and as much as I am a rule follower and I love putting together developments that meet all the checklist requirements of the agencies of our community and zoning ordinances, the compatibility with safety from a road commission standpoint and actual safety often kind of butt heads. A 5-lane road that has no curvature and is a straight shot at 55 miles an hour is truly one of the most dangerous things you can do for traffic safety. I mean, simple things are adding curvature to roads, having less lanes, having narrower lanes. Those are all ways that naturally slow, from a perception, from a driver's standpoint, traffic. Without any of the ability to do those things, you really do run up against kind of the last straw, which is a traffic light. So I really think it's probably the only solution to do anything in this area.
I'd like to mention that when we'd meet, Gary would put pressure on the school district to have a trail across their property. And he kept bringing that up because it's logical. And then he would also kind of shame them about the sidewalk on 36th Street that they didn't take our recommendation on that. He's a good negotiator.
I haven't gotten what I wanted yet, so he's negotiating and winning are two different things.
Well, you're not done yet, right? So, okay, the motion is before you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And it is carried. Item 16, our second public comment period. Now, anyone here this evening that would like to address the board with your concerns? Yes, ma'am. You have 3 minutes. We only ask you to identify your name and your street address. Welcome.
I am Sue Cooley. My husband Richard and I have lived at 6849 Eric Avenue for 24 years, just east of the Georgetown Cemetery. My neighbors who are here with me tonight, and we have gone through the stages of grief over the loss of the giant oak trees in the news section recently. Anger and sadness mostly. And I hear from you all that you feel the same. We came up with a long list of questions and comments about the way it all came about. Maybe you can imagine how upset we were losing the shade of those trees and the wildlife we've watched for years. After our 5-hour wine and wine party, I decided to go through the minutes of all the meetings since September 23rd to figure out why a 15-minute meeting on March 3rd suddenly increased the tree bids so drastically. There was nothing in the minutes of the Services Committee meetings, including September 23rd, and I was there that night. I did speak that night. Amy, you were there.
Yep.
Becky was there.
Yep.
And we talked about
Yes,
how
I
important
remember.
those trees were. Next, I went through all the board minutes. I saw the change in the cemetery rule number 6 in the November 25th minutes. But I thought, okay, that makes sense because I know they're going to put a road in through there, so they can't call it a forest anymore. That's fine. And the tree bid was still $9,600. So, yep, they're just going to take down those tall, skinny trees. Makes sense to me. On January 27th, it was still $9,600. And the cemetery timeline options were presented. I thought, oh, good. Phase 2 behind my house won't happen until 2030. We've got time. We can get some trees planted. But why did all the trees get cut down at once? Finally, I thought to check the videos. It took me several hours, but there it was on March 10th. Rod Diemter explaining the reasoning. The gypsy moth damage to the trees, as soon as I heard that, I remembered. We saw the evidence on the trees, too. We were there when the canopy was almost totally wiped out one year. The need to cut the oaks down now to give the roots time to decompose before the irrigation lines can be installed, that makes perfect sense. And the timeline for construction in both phases. He laid it out so we knew what was going to happen and when it was going to happen. If only we had been sent a letter that told us that before those trees came down. It would have given us time to say, oh, now I know why it's happening. Now I know I can live with this. So, yes, we're still sad about the trees, but we're also want to warn people in this situation that they need to pay attention, even though it takes hours to go through all this. We ask that if in this situation, there are only 7 or 8 houses that are involved. 7 or 8 letters would have been simple to send to us. So we're asking if this ever comes up again in any other area of the township, that you do that. Write that down.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
And
Are
we
there
do
others
have
who
a request.
Sorry?
We do have a request
Yes.
about the trees.
Yep.
We want to line the fence with even short evergreens, anything to prevent our houses from being the feature when somebody's trying to have a funeral service right there across the fence.
Thank you. There are others that probably wish to address it too. Maybe we'll pick up with the theme if you wish.
Okay. That's
Thank
my
you
time.
for your thoughts.
I want to say
yeah.
I do appreciate the amount of work because I've seen now in all those minutes all the things that you deal with. So I appreciate all the work that you have to do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And while she's taking her seat, I'll just say Rod Diemter, our head of parks, who you heard on that meeting, is able also, if you were to ask his office to explain some of the thoughts that we have about some plantings along that fence line. So I know it's not been lost on him or on that committee. Anyone else wish to address the board at this time on any subject? All right, Sean. Welcome.
Sean Half, Winifred Street. You know, one of the low point of serving on the board of review was that poverty exception. I'm glad the finance committee agreed to increase the asset test a little bit. But that person that was 18% over the finance limit, they're making $1,200 or $1,300 a month on disability. And what put them over the limit, as it currently stands, was getting $250 a month of food stamps. That's $62.50 a week to get by on food, assume it's just, and that's if, and one person, even if you're doing Dave Ramsey just eating beans and rice, I don't see how you're getting by even on $62.50 a week for food. And if you have a month where you have 5 weeks, $50 a month. I'm glad they increased the asset test, but as we know here, you have the water bills are going to be going up a bit, sewer bills going to be going up a bit. Prices all over the board have gone up. The price to buy a plot here went up $400 as much. I don't see how it sounds great that we don't have anybody that meets a poverty exception, but I would ask that the board at least consider maybe looking into that and raising that a bit more, because the reality is, I don't know how that person's getting by. I don't see how they have any money to pay property taxes on $17,500. And on the board review, we just got to follow the formula and make sure Connor, gave us the correct information. And yeah, they didn't qualify based on the formula, but the board does. And I just don't see how that person's able to get by on that. It is very limited amount of money. And so I would encourage the board to look into that and consider raising that a bit, because there's a lot of people that they're just not able to afford that. I mean, we have to be realistic. I'm blessed with a good job. I know you guys have either had good jobs or enjoying a good retirement after having good careers. And even 25 years ago, I'm not sure how much you'd get by in $17,500, but I was just, in my 20s back then or so. But I like the board to consider that, maybe have the finance committee look it over a little bit. It just seems egregiously low with the way everything costs these days. Thank you.
You, Sean.
Thanks, Sean.
Sergeant Tamiga, welcome.
Sergeant Tamiga with the Sheriff's Office. Just again, wanted to congratulate Justin on his new position. As you all know, the community relations or the community policing relationship that we as a Sheriff's Office has had with Georgetown Township goes back 50 years. And it's about that relationship. And for me being in this position for the last 3, being the one responsible for maintaining and building that relationship with kind of 3 of us newly assigned to this position about 3 years ago, it's been a pleasure. I look forward to continuing to work with Justin. It's going to be seamless. I was a little concerned as to what was going to happen, but now I don't have to be. So it's great for the relationship between our 2 organizations, and I look forward to it. So thank you all for that. And Justin, I look forward to working with you as well too. The communication that he and I have is going to be just as good as what it was. In fact, I probably communicated more with Justin than I did with Rob. So it's gonna go well. So thanks.
That's
Congratulations.
great.
Thank you.
That's great. Thank you.
Mike, I'm glad that I can sleep better tonight knowing you're sleeping better tonight too.
I don't sleep at night.
Anyone else? Anyone is welcome. All right. Seeing no one further, then we'll close the second public comment period. Information, discussion, general information among the board.
I'd just like to address what Sean's comments were. It's easy to come here and seek compassion for individuals, and I have compassion for them, but I don't think everybody understands that you're asking us to change property taxes. We only receive, as a township, 8% of those property taxes. And the county receives 14% of those property taxes. And the public schools, which we all get to vote for in the millages, get 78% of those property taxes. So I think the system is wrong in a way, because they come to the township, our board of review, we have it assessed by the county, and yet it's the public school system that gets the bulk of those taxes, and they're not even involved. We collect it, we write them a check, but nobody goes to them and says, hey, is there a way that you can do things differently so we ain't got to pay so much property taxes? And so I just think sometimes that the township, because we send out that notice and our address is on that envelope, that they believe all those taxes come to us. They do, but they get dispersed and we get the least. So when you pay I believe your summer tax bill, all of that goes to public school. Now one dime goes to the township of the county. That's all public school tax. So when you vote for a millage, you got to vote for that tax. So if you want to spend that kind of money, you're having a tough time getting sympathy from me. If everybody wants to vote for a 20-year mortgage on a building so the band students don't get their hair wet and all these nice things, which are nice for your kids and grandkids, my kids don't participate. So I'm just saying, that's my 2 cents worth. I'm not against public schools. I'm against how it's financed and against how it's spent. That's my concern. Shiny things are nice, but you have to pay for them.
All right. Thank you. Anyone else?
Jim, I'd just like to comment how professional these people are that came for the cemetery. And, you know, it's a tragedy when you see those big, beautiful trees being cut down. Mm-hmm. But they handled this incredibly well and with class. And they were asking questions in the right way. And that was just very nice to see. So thank you very much.
And they did a lot of research.
Yes. And I'd just like to comment real quick. I attended the Jenison Historical Society that meets once a month. Liz Timmer's in charge of that. She runs one of the best meetings I've ever seen. I mean, they meet in the second floor over here at the library. They have, at that time, they had 11 members. They volunteer. They put on schools come to our museum and they dress in costume. And these people take it incredibly serious. It was inspiring. And if you get a chance, it's once a month, and she is a taskmaster, and it was nice to see. But I approached them on something Gene had brought up, that our 250th anniversary is coming up for the nation, and there's some grants out there. You need to have an historical society involved in it. November is the deadline, and so I approached them on, could we do something for Georgetown Township? And the board has an interest. Some of you had shared that with me before, and Gene had shared it. There's a good chance it could be completely taken care of by the grant, or we might have to pick up 30%. And so I asked them to brainstorm and come up with ideas. We got to get things rolling. Mm-hmm. And it was suggested by a few people, and then we had the elementary kids come in a few weeks ago, that I think with the parks, and Amy had mentioned something about kind of a health station exercise in our parks where you go from station to station to station as you're walking around 8th Avenue or Maplewood. Could we make it historic and maybe have plaques there or something that would be of an educational value concerning Georgetown Township? So they're thinking about it. But we'd have to get something really rolling and in place by November. So when Justin gets an assistant, this might be something you could assign, and that would be wonderful. And you know, I think we could do something like that at both 8th Avenue and Maplewood Park, and maybe have it completely paid for. So just a thought. But I was just impressed by them. They've been doing this for years, and Becky Steele was incredibly involved. She still is. They love her, and she got them really embracing technology. And when the schools come, I think she even has scan bars to keep track of the kids. And Becky's put her heart and soul in it, and she's still doing it. But that's the way she is.
I'll just throw this out there. Anybody who's interested in participating in some way with our Memorial Day service, let me know, either after the meeting or by email, and we'll fit you in somewhere, okay?
It's a good segue. I was talking to Amy. I'm trying to get Amy to run with me in the 5K.
Oh.
She says the hill coming up, Baldwin, is too tough.
Well, I don't know, somebody told me that it was very tough.
If anybody wants to run the 5K with me.
I'm considering it.
A motion that Amy has to run in that race.
Support.
But in addition to the 5K and the Memorial Day event, one thing we've also been chatting about is it's called the Grand
Explorers
Race.
Trail Race.
June 21st.
Yes.
And it goes through Grand River and Grand Ravines. There's a 5K and a 10K option. And if you've never, even if you don't want to run it, it's just another reminder that there's these beautiful parks.
You can walk it too.
Walk it, but these parks are just so beautiful. If you've ever gotten a chance to go back, and now Grand River is connected to Grand Ravines all through a paved path. It's just so cool. I think I'm going to go bold and do the 10K. So again, if anybody wants to run with
I'm
me.
doing the 5K. Awesome. And who won their age category last year?
Seriously?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
Mike, you need a ride along?
I did do it. But just fun events.
And I'm considering the Jennison one.
Okay.
The hill that you have in the last push up. They need to reverse the course.
So I have one more thing I want to bring up too.
You're going to run with us?
I didn't get the running hip when they replaced my hip. It's like, I didn't even get the dancing hip, much less the running hip. So, we're talking about trees, all right? So I have a place in East Jordan, and we went through the ice storm a month ago, and if you think you lost a few trees, but you ain't seen nothing yet. But my question is, if something like that should happen here, do we have like emergency services where we have a plan? Should we have a tornado or a massive fire like Pacific Palisades, or an ice storm that takes out, like in my area, they took out 26 telephone poles. 2,600 telephone poles in that area. And I'm just curious, like, is that something that's thought about, or?
We do have a ECO room in under the township building.
Okay.
I can take you down there. We can activate tornado sirens remotely if the county becomes disabled. So we do have that flexibility. We have, if you look on the outside of our building, we have a tower that we can use for internal communications. And then also building redundancy of having 2 internet lines. We do have that capacity. This building, library, and our new DPW building has their own generator, so we can, if the world stops, can we keep on moving? We can. So.
My guess probably 2 of them happened. One, what happened with the floods a number of years back, where residents would begin to do things on their own, which would be a beautiful thing.
Right.
But I think the county, I learned this through COVID. I participated in a lot of their meetings related to COVID and emergency response and their division. They would love to come in, of course, in a situation like that and help a township or city within the county and provide maybe some of the infrastructure and things we don't have, or the training or whatever might be needed. Yeah.
There's guys up north by me that went 21 days without liquor. That's a long time.
Yeah.
You go 3-4 days, your stuff in your freezer is still maybe good if you keep it shut, but after that, it's all over. So.
I know the fire department does work closely with the township and stuff on that too. We do have stuff that, when the floods came, we were sandbagging, and that's one good thing about the fire department too. You got something going on in the township, even when we had the winds that went through Cottonwood and Bauer here a few years ago too. We actually sent people up there to help these guys with lunches. We did that as the fire department, give them snacks and whatever else. You get 60 guys that are willing to come out, leave their families, and work hard in any kind of situation. Along with that too, which I would like to set up a meeting sometime, but we do have this disaster assessment team as part of the township with Kelly and Rich and stuff like that I think we should try to meet here sometime and see what, being 2 newbies on, find out what that's all about and where it was in the past, and try to move it forward and try to connect it to, like Gary's saying.
I remember being privy to the county's emergency management plan, very robust under all sorts of environmental or other man-made issues should they arise. So, I don't know that we would need to totally reinvent the wheel, but it might be
No.
interesting to sort of learn from them and
Sure.
piggyback off of what they already have in place.
Love to do that.
I mean, we're certainly not as rural as I am up north. I mean, there's, like, for me, my nearest neighbor's a mile. So it's if you lose power, you're on the bottom of the list to get fixed. They were dealing with Charlevoix, Petoskey, Gaylord. I didn't need power. I was solar. So I was independent, but my neighbors were truck carting in water. They did that for 2 weeks, so. It's just
Good topic, no, good discussion. Anyone else? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Support.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed?